Hey, what's up, guys? My name is James. Thank you so much for tuning that podcast dial to the Eek channel and checking us out here on the Eek podcast. If you're unfamiliar with the show, just so you know, what we'll do is we're going to have a topic at the beginning, and then we'll take a little break in the middle, and we will immediately get up from these seats and go watch a scary movie. Today's movie, we are watching The Nun. And then as soon as the movie's over, we'll come back to the table. We will get back on the microphones. You're going to get our immediate feedback without even skipping a beat. And that's how it rolls. And we do that so that, you guys can tune into the podcast. And even if you haven't watched the movie yet, you can pause it during the break, go watch the movie, come back and listen into us. It's like you're right here in the room with us. And I like that. Whenever I listen to podcasts, it's just sometimes it feels like you're just in a room with some of your friends. And man, that's kind of what we're going for here. Just so it's like being in a room with your friends talking about horror movies, and it's really, really great. So with that, we are gonna go ahead and head into episode 3.
Good evening. You're about to take another terrifying journey into the world of mystery, suspense, and terror. Let's turn on all the lights, lock the doors and windows, sit back and enjoy this evening's chilling tale.
Yep. All right. Hello.
Hi,
My name is James, and on my right I have,
Joshua.
and on my left,
Cody.
and this is the Eek Podcast. Thanks so much for listening in. Today we are going to talk about trailers for movies that are coming out, or at least supposed to come out in 2019, coming out this year. We're recording this at the beginning of 2019, so if you're listening to this as an alien in like 50 years or so, like,
Yes.
hopefully these are like classic movies by now, and you're catching up as you've wiped out all of humanity.
I had so many things come into mind, and I stopped. It was
Cool. So we watched a lot of trailers, and I guess I can go first. I had a real hard time finding movies that I was excited about. So that is what it is. I guess I just hate things.
I feel like, especially in the trailer world, what I noticed was like just the I'll call it the structure of the trailer. So many of the movies, it was so predictable. Exactly what the next shot was going to be, and many of them are, inspired by some form of a classic horror movie, and so you kind of have an idea of what this movie's already about. Literally, there was one. It was a foreign flick. I think they were speaking maybe Dutch, and it didn't look too scary for the first minute and 40 seconds of the trailer. The last 20, they kind of threw in some horror elements. They didn't have subtitles on the trailer, and I still know what's going to happen in the movie. It's just that's the nature of most of the movies of the trailers that I watched today.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get some of the bad out. So what I ended up doing is I have 3 goods, 3 bads, and 3 questionables.
I was wondering how categories are going to get broken down.
Yeah.
I have good, which we won't spend much time on those. I have what I call intrigued. A lot of these are like, maybe they don't fall necessarily in what I would consider the horror genre. Maybe they're kind of a refranchising of something. Mm-hmm. Then I have what I call worried. And these are movies that like, I have a general idea of what they're going to try to do, or maybe it's another reimagining, and I'm worried about them.
Yeah.
Then I have the bad, and that seems to be the longest list. So I'll try not to spend too much time on that.
Yeah. So I'll start off with my first bad movie. My first bad movie was this movie called Isabel. And actually,
Yowza.
now that I say it, I just watched the trailer today, and it was so bad that I've kind of forgot most of it. It was like a weird pregnancy movie, which that's become almost its own subgenre in horror, and it's one that's just, I don't know, hard for me to stomach. Maybe just like pregnancy in general is kind of terrifying enough as it is for humans. Like,
I can vouch for that. Yes.
Oh, you were pregnant?
I witnessed pregnancy, which might be worse.
A lot of those movies, they don't really appeal to me. I remember there was one that was really hot for a while. I think it was called Lyle or something. We passed over it on Scary Movie Monday like 6 times. Like, we're just, I don't know. Pregnancy horror, not really my cup of tea. So Isabel was that type of movie, looked real bad.
Looked real bad.
The next one I had was a movie called Polaroid.
Oh, I saw that. I saw that trailer.
Oh my God, it looked terrible.
That looked really bad.
The worst part is like it's straight ripped from a Goosebumps book. Like it's Say Cheese and Die. Like I take a picture of you with a camera and then you die. It's like Say Cheese and Die plus Final Destination.
I was gonna say with the Final Destination in there.
So freaking stupid. I can't believe that anyone greenlit that movie. And then my last one, which I'm going to be completely honest, I didn't even watch the entire trailer because it was so bad. It was Hex.
Oh Lord. So I literally, this is my Isabel. So I watched it. I think it was in like a 5-minute or 10-minute, like, these are all the great horror flicks coming this year.
That's where I saw it.
And I just typed down Hex to remember that was not going on the good list. Never went back and really watched the trailer again.
Oh my God.
It was so bad.
It was
so bad.
It was bad. All right. Josh, hit us up with some of your bads.
Well, unlike you guys, once I saw the bad, I tried to empty it out of my brain.
Nice.
And most of the ones you mentioned, I remember and going, not even going to waste any brain power on.
That was probably a good idea.
I really don't have any bad. I just have a bunch of
you.
good and intrigued.
Good for you. All right. Before we move on to things that might be good, let's hit us with a couple more bads that I haven't said already.
Yeah. So I had a couple. I'm trying to quickly delete off my list. I certainly don't want this to be the podcast that just bashes on a lot of movies. And I realize
we hate everything.
I realize I could be quickly getting that label.
We've done two
movie.
movies where we've done 2 episodes and both movies we said sucked. So
yeah, it's true. So actually I'm going to start kind of from the bottom. And they're all 3 kind of like, what are they, anti-hero movies or like bad superhero movies?
Oh yeah.
And that for me, and I get it, it's just really not my thing.
Yep.
A lot of people really love these kinds of movies. As far as I'm concerned, Marvel, most comic book houses, they really just need to stay away from horror. There are very few that I feel like really could be pulled off from a book to screen transition.
Right.
And I don't think any of these are. So just real quickly, one is Spawn. It may come out in 19.
Oh no.
It's
a
a
new Spawn movie.
It's a new Spawn movie. It's a reimagining.
Yeah.
Supposedly the guy who made it is now really excited that
McFarlane, right?
yeah, Todd. Is that right? No, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah, that's right. It's because it's not Seth.
It's not
That's
Seth.
Family Guy.
Yeah. And he's very excited, I guess, at now what he can do with CGI. I don't know.
Oh boy. That guy's weird, man.
I saw shots of the old Spawn and I thought, yikes.
Yeah.
It has to be better than that.
This feels like a huge reaction to me. So if I've also been at another point in my life a really, really big comic book nerd. And if I'm remembering correctly, that same dude designed Venom. And if he didn't design him, I know he at least worked on as an artist like in the 90s when Venom was really popular.
Yep.
And this almost just feels like a response. Like, oh, you use character that I made super famous, so now I'm going to use my own character who also just kind of, I mean, Spawn is just more gruesome Venom. Like, he looks just the same. The design is so similar. Like,
Devil Venom.
Venom that works for,
the
King of Darkness.
So to me, this feels like, oh, Marvel and Fox didn't really talk to me when they made Venom, so like fucking watch what I can do. Like,
yeah. So anyway, I'll try to keep moving. Burn Bright. So this kind of looks like a
Brightburn.
Okay, Brightburn. Whatever. It's like if it's the Smallville storyline, but if like Clark Kent was bad.
Right.
It looks horrible. And then and I may get burned for this one, but New Mutants. I thought just looked. I mean, like it looks so bad. It looks like
it's our font.
It looks.
Oh, that font.
It looks like. What were the X-Men movies that came out where they were like the kids, like Jennifer Lawrence's big break,
First Class.
First Class. It looks like the badness of First Class with like a kind of just straight ripping of Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Like and if I remember right, it even has the kid who plays Jonathan in Stranger Things.
Yep.
So like I don't know. All three of those, yikes.
Yeah. New Mutants didn't make my bad list, but it also didn't make my good list or my questionable list.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued enough to see it. I think Fox with Deadpool has realized like, hey, people show up whenever we do something a little out of the norm. So I think that's their thinking behind it.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to let them do that because I don't know, it doesn't cost me anything.
It's true. My last three on my bad, just for funsies. One's called Midsommar. I think that's how you pronounce it. That's the foreign flick.
Oh boy.
There's going to be a really good foreign flick horror movie in 2019, and this is not going to be it. So go waste your time with that trailer. One is Curse of La Llorona.
Ooh. That looked bad.
It looked really bad. I'm pretty sure I've seen that movie like 9 times, just with a different title. And this one has, Hispanic,
which
starring cast.
I think I've heard, at least I've heard that terminology thrown around before. I don't know how familiar I really am with like the actual folklore, but like I've heard La Llorona before, and so like I heard there was like, just a Mexican horror movie about La Llorona, and I was like, oh, that could be really cool.
Could be really
like,
sweet.
Mexican witches are scary. What are the bruja? Like anytime I see stuff like folklore based around that, like it's really freaking scary. So I was going in positive, and the trailer proved me wrong.
Yeah. So I think this could be a good transition to our Intrigued. This one for me falls square in the middle of bad and Intrigued. And this is 3 from Hell.
Yeah.
So the thing that makes me pause on this, like I watched the trailer and immediately I was like, oh my gosh, it looks like garbage. Who would be excited for this? And then like I rewatched it. So it ends and then I was like, well, I'm going to run that back. And the clear homage to 70s horror that they structure the trailer with is intriguing, I guess, which means it kind of like a Tarantino film where like, even if it's pretty wild and out there, he still knows exactly what he's trying to accomplish.
Right.
And you can appreciate it for that. But at the end of the day, again, this is just me and I get it. I get beat up for this, but Rob Zombie, please just stop making movies. Like,
I mean, and probably music too.
Man, like
Rob Zombie, just become an accountant, please.
Or maybe he just needs to be like a producer or something. Like I feel like I always am really excited about his vision for something, and then I'm never super stoked on the execution.
Yeah. Same with the Halloween. Like when he was like, hey, I'm going to make Halloween 1 again. I was pumped. And then he made Halloween 1 again, and I wanted to gouge my eyes out. Like it was so bad.
Yeah. I mean, his music, his movies, like I guess nothing that he's made has necessarily been a home run for me personally, but obviously critically he's made stuff that people really like.
Definitely.
I know a lot of people who like Devil's Rejects. I never even got around to seeing it.
Yeah, me neither.
But I saw House of a Thousand Corpses, and even when it came out and I was in like middle school, like I saw the promise in it, and I was like, oh, it's his first movie, like he'll probably get better, right? But so what's interesting to me about Three from Hell is it's been a long time since Devil's Rejects came out.
Yeah,
and like this is the final part of the Firefly family trilogy. Because it's the same characters from House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, and then Three from Hell. So I'm interested in it. I'll probably watch Devil's Rejects and then check it out because I've never seen them. So
yeah.
So my questionables are really only questionable because trailers don't exist yet.
Oh,
and there's
quite a few of those.
Yeah, and there are movies that I'm actually really excited for.
I'm very interested. You just keep going. I shouldn't keep interrupting you.
Yeah, so I'll start with this one because it kind of calls back to one of the bad movies that we saw. So first of all, this year will be a remake, relaunch, reimagining, whatever. What do we even call them anymore? There's so many, but they're remaking Child's Play.
Yep.
And like I'm not gonna say that like I'm a big old Chucky fan or anything like that, but like
I would like to meet the person who says that.
Chuck E. Cheese, maybe.
I'm sure they exist. But I've always found it a little endearing. Growing up, my best friend was just terrified of Chucky. Like that was just like his number one fear. And so like, of course, like his parents bought a Chucky doll and would like hide it around the house and like just scare the hell out of him. Like,
how's he doing now?
Actually, he ended up watching them. So we were in a band together, and after we graduated high school, he ended up watching like the first 3 movies or something. He's like, oh, it's not so bad. Like, but he was just traumatized for years. And then also like, I don't know, like I'm a big Chicago sports fan, and like it all takes place in Chicago, and like that kind of stuff kind of gets me tickled about it. But the scariest thing, so not only are they remaking Child's Play, but the director of the remake of Child's Play is the guy who directed Polaroid.
Oh no.
Oh,
good for him.
He's finding work.
He's got 2 in 2019. I really hope that is his paycheck for life. Like that's.
So I think how I read it was Polaroid has actually been made and in the can for a while, and with the whole Weinstein group,
it hasn't developed yet.
God, I hate you. With the whole Weinstein group, like thing happening, like a bunch of movies aren't getting released, and so they were waiting for someone else to pick it up. It was probably supposed to come out in like 2017, and then just like gradually things have happened and it just hasn't come out. So that's why it's finally coming out the same year as him doing a huge remake movie. But yeah, so that one has me a little bit worried. This one I found out was being made that I didn't know. They are doing a Are You Afraid of the Dark movie.
Interesting.
Based off of the Nickelodeon series, which I freaking loved. But they've released, I think it was Paramount, has released nothing except a logo.
Oh.
The date says 2019, but all we have is a logo. So like nothing about who's directing, nothing about who's in it, nothing about even what the movie is. Like I think the production team said that storytelling is a major focus. And that's all they've said about Are You Afraid of the Dark? So I want there to be a really good Are You Afraid of the Dark movie. That sounds really, really fun. I don't care if they do it as like a anthology or if it's just like one story. Like it could be really, really fun.
Hopefully it's not a Goosebumps movie.
Hopefully it's not a Goosebumps movie. That's really bad. But I've owned both of them on Blu-ray anyway.
I can't let my childhood be in vain.
I know. And my son is terrified of Slappy. It's amazing. I haven't bought a Slappy doll yet, though, and hid it around the house. I really should.
You should.
Then the next one, obviously, this has been on people's radar for a long time, but there still hasn't been a trailer for it. It is scary stories to tell in the dark. Just a classic kids horror book. It's being bankrolled by Guillermo del Toro, which is
Really
exciting. He's not directing, but from what it seems is pretty heavily involved in the production process. Obviously, if he's doing something with the illustrations that are in that book, like it's gonna be pretty, if nothing else, like pretty in a really weird, gruesome way.
Definitely.
So there's that. Do you have any more borderlines, questionables?
Yeah. So I'll kind of like in the negative borderline questionables. So I'll try not to rehash anything that you've said.
Sure.
One, and this is kind of my worried category.
Yeah, worried. Yeah.
So one of them is It Chapter 2.
Sure.
What was the movie on Hulu, or I'm sorry, the TV show on Hulu that was the Stephen King
The Langoliers.
Ca-
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
that what it was
You seemed really convinced that was right.
That is a King thing, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's like a 2 or 3 part terrible CGI. Oh my gosh.
Oh yikes!
Yeah.
No, Castle Rock.
Yeah,
we'll go with that one. And so, I really liked kind of what they did with that show. Just kind of reimagine it, or I really developing characters in kind of a Stephen King setting.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was interesting enough. So that's essentially what they're doing with it. Chapter 2, they're utilizing the same characters, but someone else is creating this story, which makes me nervous.
Yeah.
I mean, look what's happened to Star Wars. I mean, the list can go on and on and on about movies that have utilized characters that we love, stories that we love, and mess them up. They're stronger language. So It Chapter 2, I'm a little worried about. Jacob's Ladder.
I forgot.
I'm a little worried about, just because I really like the first one,
so
or
good.
the original.
Yeah.
I know it's a little dated now, and it certainly could be remade. And one thing that I kind of kept going back to is it feels like we're kind of in this era of, hey, we're going to remake this. We're going to reboot it, just kind of like what you were saying. And, I was kind of going through, like, for going back to Star Wars, they have the opportunity to create a new storyline for a new generation, and horror movies don't necessarily get that luxury.
Right.
And so they can try to remake them with cell phones versus, bagged cell phones that, they're carrying around in 1990, Jacob's Ladder. So they could make it more timely. I'm just worried that it's going to be retold and people are going to hate on it. And it's like, wait, but in my opinion, it's a very good movie.
I can't imagine Jacob's Ladder getting remade without being just super political today.
Yeah,
like,
it's true.
I feel like that's what it'll become. And I feel like the original, while that was part of it, was so much more than just that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like it would be really hard to toe that line today.
Yeah. And then my final one in my worried category, and again, maybe it was just because how old I was when the first one came out, is The Grudge. I thought it was enjoyable. I think it came out, I think I was a freshman in high school or something like that. But do we need this movie again? There were a couple after it. They were really bad. And then there's been so many since. Like, is this necessary to do another one?
Like, we get it. Small Asian kids can be scary.
They can be terrifying.
Hey, I have one of those. And they can be pretty scary.
He can be scary.
The Grudge, I never saw the first one, but I looked into the production of this one a little bit, and this one didn't even make my list, but I'm pretty hopeful for it. Like, I feel like maybe just me personally, I haven't seen a good Asian ghost movie in a long time. Like, because like those kind of movies just play by their own completely different set of rules. And like just watching the trailer.
Are they different rules, or do you just not understand them?
Hang on a second. Josh has to stop pretending to be a ghost. Maybe I just don't understand them, but I feel like they're completely different rules. Like, there's that one moment in the New Grudge trailer where like she's like washing her hair and like a ghost kid hand appears like in the back of her head. Like, like American ghosts don't do that.
Yeah.
You know, like they're standing in the corner like with a sheet over their head. Like, like Asian ghosts just get to be like, they're way more supernatural.
Yeah, it's
and
true.
they're way more like reality bending.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, I think it'd be worth it to see a cool movie like that.
Yeah.
All right, Josh, what do you like?
What do I like? So,
Well, you had a category of like.
I guess that I did have like the middling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So there are a couple that that are intriguing. They might be absolutely terrible. One of them is A Body at Brighton Rock. It's this, I think it's this park ranger has to go find this body in the woods and like protect it while people come to, get it.
Oh.
And there's not a whole lot more than that, except that she is out there by herself. I don't know if it goes supernatural or wildlife or like her own personal demons, something like that.
That sounds pretty
It
cool.
looked interesting.
Yeah.
Didn't see that one.
I mean,
No, me
the
neither.
isolation looked,
Yeah.
a little creepy. Another one was The Hole in the Ground, which is a pretty standard kid goes somewhere, comes back. You're not sure if it's still the same kid, but it's from like an Irish director or something like that. And just hearing their accents made it feel different, as silly as that sounds.
No.
And I'm curious if in Ireland they might have a different take on that.
Yeah.
And then there was one that it's called Piercing. Any of you see that one?
No.
I watched the trailer because I think it's out now and it's
Oh.
actually already hit VOD.
Oh, I guess it still is 2019.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's still in the running.
But yeah, it's that one. Very, very quick cuts in the trailer. Very artistic. Who was the director? Wasn't it James? No, not James Wan.
No,
It was
I don't know who it was.
it was someone who's done other things and he's popular and
Yeah.
everybody thinks he's good. But it had very much to me like audition aspects of this guy meets this girl with these intentions, but he doesn't realize that the girl is aware of them or that she has her own and that she has obviously much more sinister ideas and plans. And just the colors, and it seemed kind of 80s-ish with the color schemes, and that looked interesting.
Cool.
So those are probably my
Cool. I'll save like the one that I'm most excited for because I think that probably you guys are probably going to talk about it too. But I will say this next one of the two on my good list. One of them, I'd consider it a horror movie, I guess. Maybe it's not, but I'm putting it out there because everything that I watched I didn't like. It's Godzilla King of Monsters. I'm really excited about the new Godzilla movie.
I guess it could be scary. Like, yeah, so this may be a different topic for another week, but this to me goes to like, Jurassic Park. It was the first Jurassic Park, a horror movie. Like it's scary at times.
Yeah.
When I saw it as a 9 or 10-year-old, I was scared.
Yeah.
But that, like, to me, Godzilla kind of falls into that category. Even the King of the Beasts or whatever this one's called, like, it looks entertaining enough. He just keeps getting bigger and more ridiculous.
He does.
And someday his head's going to be in space. He's going to need a little oxygen tank up there. just saying, or whatever lizards would need in space. Probably oxygen. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I could.
He's gonna be a history teacher, not a science teacher, folks. It's all gonna be fine.
Yeah, it could have made my intriguing list.
Yeah.
I just decided it's just one of those parameters that I put on horror. It's just not.
like I want to see
get
it. I just don't. Probably not gonna get scared during the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe.
I agree.
Wow.
I think it just kind of fits into that category of like. So for me, like horror movies fit into this category of like. So my dad has this cousin. My dad never was into these kind of movies, but his cousin was super into these kind of movies, and just has like he probably has like original VHS copies of the entire Sleepaway Camp series. But he also had like a crap ton of Godzilla movies and other kaiju movies, like the same they're making those movies for the same people, you know, or at least they used to. They're not now. They're making them to be blockbusters, but at least then, like, they were making them for the same audience, and that's kind of why I lump them together.
I'll keep if you don't mind. You say you have one. You have the one that we really want to spend some time talking about.
I'm sure.
Okay, so I'm going to throw a couple more out there. This is my intrigued list. Won't spend a whole lot of time on them, but one is Escape Room. It looks entertaining enough.
Yeah.
It definitely has, elements of, Cabin in the Woods, The Cube, things like that. But, I think it could be a fun movie. Prodigy. Kids are scary. And again, we've seen this movie probably 6 or 7 times.
Yeah.
But there's several coming out, this year, and this is probably one of the better looking ones right now. And then the one that actually, it doesn't have a trailer for it, but one that I'm kind of interested to see is, or at least see a trailer for, is called The Silence. And it's kind of sounds like it has like a subterranean humanoid, like monsters or alien. It was not really clear, but it could be kind of like an I Am Legend.
Yeah.
Like it, that kind of has that, or World War Z. I mean, it could have something to that effect. It could just be A Quiet Place again. Like, I don't know.
Sure.
But I'm always down for some subterranean humanoid monsters. And if you really want an interesting topic to really just go down a dark hole of YouTube and Google, make sure you have your safe searches on. Google that for a while. You'll get on some government lists. Yikes. The Drilling Project in Nevada. Just look that one up. All right. Sorry.
All right, Josh, what else you got for us?
There was really only one that there's two that I'm really excited for. I'll probably save the one that I think we probably are on the same page about.
I really hope we're not.
Oh, I guarantee we are.
But the one that I'm excited for is Pet Sematary.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't say that.
I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely.
I actually haven't seen the first one.
Me either.
I know. It was just in that time period when I didn't grow up watching horror movies, and I never got around to it. But I like the idea, and it looks good.
It looks good.
I really like the imaging that they're going for.
Yeah.
With this Pet Cemetery, like just the kids in the creepy old timey masks.
Yep.
The weird drum beat that goes through the entire trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the John Lithgow?
Lithgow, creepy Lithgow.
Creepy.
Few things are better
Yeah.
on screen than creepy Lithgow.
Yeah, which is so. If you guys don't know, the guy who played that neighbor in the first one was Herman Munster.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So like, not that creepy. Very endearing, kind of creepy. Danny thinks he's kind of creepy. You're gonna have Frankenstein as your neighbor. But at the end of the day, it felt more like a kids movie. Even when I watched it growing up, it felt like a kids movie. And this feels like
Darker.
Yeah. This feels like the Pet Cemetery that I've been waiting for.
Yeah.
So definitely.
Cool. So I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Last one that I'm interested for. No trailer, but it's called The Lighthouse.
Yes.
Same director as The Witch.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the two names that are tabbed for it are Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson.
Yep.
And it's supposed to be supposedly it's going to be a black and white movie. I just think it could be very different. Roger Eggers, I think, was the director's name, or Eggers. I really like The Witch. Yep. He has like 5 things that he's credited for as a director. 2, I think, are in production or post-production. Yeah. So it's just not a lot there out on him, but very interested in that one.
Yeah, me too. Side story real quick on The Witch. So I was driving home from our little weekend vacation last night, and I got a phone call from my brother-in-law who has been listening to the podcast. Yes. So, hey, Thanks, Wes and Sarah. But
Shout
they also they're you know, a purveyor of spooky movies from time to time, and a lot of times whenever they come up to visit, they're asking, you know, what's good out there. And so they've been listening to the podcast, and they specifically have been working through all of our Netflix recommendations.
Yes, let's go.
They even watched Terrifier. So like now I feel like I have to be a little more clear when I'm on the podcast, like, because like them specifically, and you know, obviously these guys know them a little bit, but like I would not recommend Terrifier to them, even though they like horror. Like that is a very specific kind of super just trashy garbage horror that I really like. Most people probably don't.
I think Danny said it best when he was worried that someone was going to come in and watch him watching it.
Anyways, so they went through and they said, and I don't know for sure. I didn't test this out. They said they went through a few of the movies that we'd recommended, one of them being Terrifier. They were trying to find ones that they really liked, and they were really excited about Raw. But when they tried to watch Raw specifically on Netflix, it wasn't giving them English subtitles.
Oh.
So
It'd be a very difficult movie to
yeah,
watch.
so they just had the French audio and that was it. So like I haven't tried that out yet, and I was like, oh, I feel like they wouldn't put it up if they didn't have the subtitles.
Yeah.
So it might just been like their smart TV, they couldn't get it to work or whatever. But that was an interesting thing. So they said, you know, things that they're really interested in or things that kind of stick with you and things like that. And like they're okay, you know, with a little bit of supernatural, but it's not really their thing. But, you know, more specifically, like after the movie's over, when you're like going out to your car, you know, to go to work the next morning and it's still kind of dark outside and like you're checking over your shoulder, like. And so they went through the ones that they had seen and they hadn't watched The Witch yet. And I was just like, it sounds like you guys need to watch The Witch tonight.
Yeah. Yep. I'd be very interested to hear their take.
Yeah. I'll have to find out what they thought. I told them to get back to me. But yeah, that was just a really funny thing. Like, I just couldn't believe that they watched Terrifier.
Let's go.
So I need to.
Hey, honey, date night. Terrifier.
Get your popcorn.
I need to be a little more descriptive in my own personal recommendations. Just because I liked it doesn't mean that other people will.
Yes.
Okay, so we're on to the last movie, right? This is the one
Absolutely.
that we're probably on the same page about. I'm sure we all watched the trailer, so we're all really excited about it.
Yes.
And that movie is Us.
Us? Yeah, no, for real.
Yeah.
Josh actually showed it to me yesterday.
Nice.
And it you know, when I first heard of Get Out and it was Jordan Peele, I thought, oh geez, this is another comedy guy trying to do horror. And now I'm all on board. Like, keep going until you prove yourself wrong. Like this, oh my gosh, it looks, but it still has like some of those comedy elements that worked so well in Get Out. Obviously, they're going to be different movies, and I'm not saying that it looks like the same movie at all.
Yeah.
Just typically elements that directors continue to bring to their films. I'm very excited for this film.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be tackling some of the same concepts and ideas that he started with Get Out, and I think he's just going to continue going down that road for a while. And yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, on one hand, I can see how you might say certain aspects look very similar. I think the color palette is very similar and stuff like that. But sometimes, like, when we look at the history of a director, and we're usually doing that with people who have directed 10 plus movies, like, you can pick up on those things. Yeah. And so, like, there's no I feel like people can get heavy handed with hating on something today, whenever, like, maybe 10 years from now we look at Jordan Peele's work and we say, oh, that was his signature. Like, or in the moment maybe we thought it looked too similar or whatever, but like, when you can look at his work as a whole, like, that was just his style. Done the same thing with Tarantino at this point. Like, So yeah, I have nothing bad to say about that trailer. Even the trailer was cut so well, and that's the thing that I've learned just kind of digging into the industry more and more is like a lot of times like Isabel, Polaroid, Hex, Curse of La Llorona, all of those movies had basically the same trailer.
Yep.
Like every bad horror movie trailer is the same, and that's because it's probably being cut by one of like 4 different editors in the industry, or at least editing houses in the industry. And so whenever you cut 20 crappy horror movie trailers a day, they're all gonna look exactly the same. And so what's cool about this is obviously they have the ability to do something different, and they can make it feel a lot different. Yeah, I'm excited for us.
I'm excited for us.
I'm the most excited for us.
We're so excited for us right now. Cool. Does anybody have anything else to say about trailers, specifically movies coming out this year?
I don't. I said a lot. I apologize.
A lot look bad, some look good. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Okay, well, speaking of things that may look bad, we might be continuing our losing streak here.
No, I have faith.
So tonight we're watching The Nun. The Nun is a 2018 film directed by Corin Hardy, written by Gary Dauberman, which was based on a story that James Wan put together. It's a spinoff of The Conjuring 2. It's considered to be the 5th installment of the Conjuring universe.
Interesting.
That's kind of what they're calling that series now, I guess. So there was The Conjuring, Annabelle, Conjuring 2, then Annabelle Creation, and then now we have The Nun. They all exist in the same universe. They're kind of doing a Marvel thing with James Wan's little horror universe. What's the Ed and Lorraine Warren universe? Which is weird to me because like those are real people.
Yeah.
And then like they're kind of making all these movies sort of based off of what they did, but also like not really. And then they're also like horror movies, which might be like a little offensive to their memory. I don't know. Like,
yeah,
it seems kind of shady in a way, but whatever. Like the first Conjuring was really good.
Yeah,
it's really freaking good. I liked it.
I'm sure somebody's getting some kind of family royalty check, right?
Yeah,
like,
probably.
I don't know.
I'd imagine. All right, so the back of the box description here: a priest with a haunted past and a novice on the threshold of her final vows. That's specifically a nun. It doesn't say anything about her being a nun. It just says she's a novice. Maybe that's an interchangeable term in that
nunnery.
In a nunnery, I don't know.
Well, I think the nun is on the front of the box. You said this is the back of the box description.
God, I hate you.
They don't need to put it twice.
So a priest with a haunted past and a novice on a threshold of her final vows are sent by the Vatican to investigate the death of a young nun in Romania and confront a malevolent force in the form of a demonic nun.
Oh, that's the nun.
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 To the nun!
To the nun!
Hey guys, it's James again. During today's break, I just wanted to give a shout out to the Scream Speak podcast with Luke and Peyton. Man, those guys over there are really, really cool dudes. They've been really nice to us. And man, they've been doing this a lot longer than us, so it's really cool just to see how their podcast continues to grow and they're getting different opportunities to do other things. Man, if you're into horror movies and maybe you like our flavor here at Eek, or maybe you don't, maybe you just want to try something different, man, these guys are awesome. They're well worth your listen. Maybe you just don't get enough horror in your day and you need more horror podcasts, man. Just go listen to Scream Speak. Those dudes are so great. Like I said, they've been doing it for a long time and they're just killing it over there. And it's so awesome just to be a part of a community, a podcasting community, but then even deeper, like the horror podcasting community, man, is just such a great place to be in. I'm so excited that we get to be a part of it. We get to, just shout out other podcasts and other creators. We're always wanting to continue to spread the word about what's happening in the horror community, what's happening in the podcast community. And just give Scream Speak a listen. If you need some more horror in your day, those dudes will do it for you. Thank you guys so much. And we're going to end the break here, and we're going to get back to our thoughts on The Nun. So hopefully you've watched it by now. But yeah, here we go.
Oh no.
Okay, let's rein it back in.
Okay, I'm trying. Whew.
All right, guys, thanks for sticking in for the break. We just got finished watching The Nun.
The Nun.
It was a movie.
Yeah. So I don't feel like I should start.
It was. I don't want to be negative right off. I feel like it started off, I would say, relatively promising. The setting was okay. Romania, kind of spooky. But it quickly, I think, kind of devolved into some pretty predictable, played out situations and
Yeah, I feel like there were many predictable scenes.
That's fair.
This was a very Exorcist-centric film, which we knew going in.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't keeping it a secret. Of the exorcism style movies, you have to have your priest figure who is having some kind of doubts or isn't really, the most pure-hearted person. You have to have like your sidekick who is super young in their faith.
Yep, there's always some kind of
eager beaver.
Yeah, trainee of some sort.
Yep. Mm-hmm. There was a side character in this film. Just remind me, spoilers are allowed, right? We've told them,
absolutely.
Hey, go watch it. We're going to watch it.
They know what we're watching.
There's a side character. They refer to him as Frenchie. He was entertaining.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of an example. Like he is the more lighthearted, laughable character of the film, which is a different element than most Exorcist films have.
Yeah.
To me, there were just so many shots that were these over dramatic, super predictable, and it's like they knew it was predictable, so they tried to add more drama to the shot.
Right.
And you can have a few of those, and okay, where this is now, you're just falling in line with every other exorcism movie. When you have a dozen and a half, which would be 18 for those mathematicians out there, it's too much. It's too much.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stylistic things that I didn't love. I am typically a fan of exorcism movies.
Mm-hmm.
So I give them a lot of leeway. Without giving my thumbs up, thumbs down. I will watch them shamelessly.
Yeah.
Really, if one comes out, I'll watch it. And overall, I would say an entertaining movie. I really, right until literally the last 2 minutes, did I just get up and walk away. It was just I was really just angry at those last 90 seconds. But overall, it was, you know what you're getting in these movies.
Right.
And there hasn't been one that surprised me or that I've really loved in a while. It's just kind of how they stylistically link some of those features that makes me like one more over the other.
Yeah, so I'm going to clear the air just on one little thing. I think that we can take that very last scene where they kind of tie the story to the Warrens and officially making it a part of the Conjuring universe, I think we can take that scene as the equivalent of like a Marvel post-credit scene. Like I don't think it's part of the movie. I think that it serves the same purpose that Marvel post-credit scenes serve, but they just didn't put it post-credits because they didn't want to cop them that hard.
But think about how they could have introed the movie. They introed it with the nun's death. That was interesting.
Right.
They could have introed it with that shot.
They could have cut straight to that.
And they could have just like really contrived, demonized Frenchie's face. Mm-hmm. And so like the end was like, oh, now we're tying it all back together.
Yeah, they could have 100%
maybe
cut.
just as cheap of a trick.
Right. They could have cut to that like without even editing much of the scene. Like they could have just reorganized that scene in the movie, and it would have given that part of it away earlier and said like, oh yeah, this is a Conjuring universe movie. Yeah. Like we could have given that away at the very beginning instead of holding out to the very end, for sure.
Which, who are you going to surprise anyway? I mean, like,
exactly
the person who saw it in theaters on opening day, like,
right?
And then they're going to write about it in their blogs, and everybody's going to know, oh, okay, this is part of that universe.
Yeah, if even if that, I mean, like, I feel like I knew that it was a Conjuring spinoff without ever knowing really anything about it. Like, yeah, that's obvious. Like the James Wan Conjuring universe thing that they're building is a selling point. At this juncture, like, yeah, like that's not something that you're trying. They're not writing it under a pseudonym, you know. Like they want you to know it's James Wan Conjuring universe because you'll actually go see it. Right. Otherwise, you may not have. Yeah. So let's start with a couple things that we liked. I liked a couple of it's funny that we talked about The Grudge and like Asian horror movies and just how sometimes they don't follow the same rules as, you know, some typical American horror staples like slashers or ghost movies or vampires or werewolves. Like demons and zombies, like we all kind of know the rules for those things. Yeah, because we've seen enough of those movies. And the times that I thought this movie was really, really cool is whenever I felt like they weren't playing by the rules at all. Like there were moments of this movie, like with him getting buried alive instantaneously somehow, that's completely inexplicable. Like that's dumb. Like it's dumb. Like, oh, how did he get buried alive? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't follow the demon rules, you know? Like it's dumb and it doesn't make sense, but it's also super unpredictable. So like I was like, oh, is this like a dream sequence? What's happening? And then she's digging him out of the ground. Like no, he was really buried under there somehow. So like breaking the rules was unexpected. And so I thought that was kind of cool. I liked that. It almost gave me some vibes of like a Nightmare on Elm Street, where obviously that then you're dealing with a dream world, but like in just those moments of they're not playing by the rules in this movie, so literally anything can happen. Now, that can be a weak point as well, because that means you can throw...
If you abuse that.
Oh, you can throw all kinds of shit at the wall, and you just be like, oh, we're not following the typical demon rules, so who cares what we do? Like, you can get away technically with whatever you want, so like, that's not necessarily a great excuse, but there was a few times I did that I thought it was really cool. I liked that sequence with him getting buried alive. I liked the sequence where she was praying with all the other nuns, and like the whole time like crazy stuff was happening, people were getting killed and she was getting scratches on her back, and then like the heroes come in to rescue her and they're like, oh, there's no one in here. Like,
and that was a good example of that.
Exactly.
And that twist or whatever, like there was no one in there the whole time, like that's not creative, right? But it worked in the moment, and I was like, "Oh shit, she was alone in there that whole time. That was crazy." Like it wasn't original, it wasn't creative, but it worked. It landed. Yeah, and I liked it.
Well, that was one of those, like, what I think they tried to achieve with Frenchie is like, hey, we're going to allow you to really build some trust in a side character. he was just a goofy choice to choose.
Yeah.
But I think they did it pretty well with the other nuns. There's a couple that she really kind of seeks out, and they give direction. And so for that twist to happen, where like actually none of them are there, and for what we know, the place is deserted, and
Right.
it's like, yeah, that was an intense shift.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, and there were one of the things that, and this is a lot of just exorcism style movies, but one of the things that I really enjoyed how they did was kind of the cut shots of where the ghost is and how they're interacting in a scene where it's not necessarily a jump scare or something like that, but it's really just to add to the creepiness value. They're kind of always around you. They're always kind of messing with you.
Yeah.
And so they would, they'd touch you, or they would, sometimes they would enact kind of her vision sense, things like that, to where you're just always reminded that they're close. They're not necessarily manipulating anything around you to bring you harm, but they're just always kind of reminding you of their presence. I thought they did that really well. Again, nothing new, nothing amazing or groundbreaking, but they took a very old trope and they did it very well.
Yeah.
Josh, you still look angry.
Josh, did you like anything?
I don't know. I think on the opposite side of Cody, I usually don't like exorcism movies. I think for whatever reason, whether it affects me more or not, I just don't find a whole lot of horror from it. I feel like maybe personally because it seems more tangible in terms of horror. Like I'm not super worried about aliens attacking me, because if it would happen, it'd be probably pretty cool and I'd be fine with it. But when it comes to the spiritual aspect of things,
can you we'll type up a
we'll
contract.
do it. We'll do it.
Okay,
put it on the website.
Perfect.
I'm fine with
When it comes to the more tangible things like that, in like the spiritual realm, it's just I don't know. I don't like watch a movie about it specifically. So most of the exorcism movies don't really get me that well. I just don't. I think it's.
I guess let me ask you this clarifying question. Like, you think they're silly, or it's a topic you think that is too real that it shouldn't be messed with?
Probably personally, I probably have a subconscious block that makes me not enjoy them.
Interesting.
Because of the fact that I think that it's an actual part of things.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you're saying ghosts aren't real? I'm just kidding. I don't want to derail the entire conversation. Just
no. I think that stuff is good, and I think that's part of any kind of movie watching experience. But especially when you're dealing with some of the topics that horror can delve into. I think there was periods of my life where exorcism type movies made me a little more uncomfortable than maybe they do now. And I mean, I think that it's fair and it's totally okay to kind of let people know that, I mean, all three of us at this table, are coming from Christian backgrounds. For the most part, raised in Christian homes. We go to Christian churches, and so obviously that can be, for some people, that makes this subject matter maybe a little more sensitive, or I think where I've gotten with it, and this might be a bad thing, is that I think that, if things like that do happen in the real world, they are so not like the way they're portrayed in movies that
right.
When I see them in movies, it's almost just a joke.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that I can kind of see where Josh is coming from just on that side of things. But there was, it just wasn't a great movie.
It really wasn't. I mean, again, kind of going back to the equation of exorcism style movies, there just isn't a bunch of leniency in kind of if you stick to the equation.
Yeah.
And they very much stuck to the equation.
Sure.
There is a movie. If you really dig exorcism style movies, I really enjoy it. It's called The Rite. It has Anthony Hopkins in it. I think it's about 5 or 6 years old now.
Yeah.
And it's just different enough. They take no spoilers on that one because I'm just now giving it to you as an option. I think as of this point, it's on Netflix still.
I think so.
And it messes with that structure just enough. You know, I mean, the thing about this storytelling structure of these kinds of stories is, I mean, it's been around for now 45 years. I mean,
right.
The first Exorcism movie came out in 72. Don't quote me on that,
right.
But I mean, like that's an old formula to be using. And so, yeah, I think kind of going back to your point, James, is like if these stories are, you know, based on true events, they certainly don't happen like this.
Right.
Not every exorcism story can have the exact same equation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it wasn't a great movie. They chose the one part. What would you say? Like as we're watching the movie, James is like, oh yeah, this is what's happening. It's a cheap gimmick to like progress the storyline.
Oh yeah, just plot exposition through dialogue.
Yeah.
And you know, again, we are not cinematic experts by any means, but I can tell whenever, you know, a filmmaker has gotten to the point where they're like, oh, we don't know how to explain anything that's going on, so we're randomly going to have this one character just vomit exposition to you to explain everything that's happening.
Which works really, really well in a D&D campaign, but not so much in a movie that I just paid for. Yeah.
And that was a really good call on the original Exorcist, by the way, 73.
Oh, so close.
So close.
So close.
So I think there were moments of this movie where it wasn't sure where it wanted to land.
Yeah.
Because there were times when we were watching it, like I said, that I felt some like Nightmare on Elm Street vibes, but they had the opportunity to take it to very Evil Dead places, and they like flirted with that idea. But they wanted to make sure that you were taking it seriously. Yeah,
I feel like I can't believe it's taken us this long to get to. I mean, every 10 minutes we said, "Wow, this is very similar to Evil Dead," or like some element of this is
right.
Evil Dead.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's like they wanted to make Evil Dead, but make you take it seriously, and like. I don't know, like not that I would have wanted them to really double down on that and make it a almost comedy like Evil Dead has become, but like I think they could have let it go a little further.
Interesting.
And I think that would have made it a better movie rather than trying to take it more towards a serious direction, more towards an exorcism or an exorcist direction. If they would have flirted a little bit more with that Deadite vibe. I mean, there's literally a moment where Frenchie comes in. I can't even remember all of the characters' names. Frenchie comes in to save our hero priest from
Indiana Jones priest.
Well, and that's and that's part of the problem. I can't even tell you what he saved him from. Like, was any of that stuff that he even saw real? So, like, he saw some kind of manifestation of what seemed to be very similar to a Deadite coming out of the frozen water and like attacking him. And then, you know, Frenchie shows up, cuts its head off. A very Ash Williams move.
Music swells.
It's just, I mean, such a kind of cheesy Evil Dead style moment. And then the priest says, "Oh, thank you, but just so you know, next time you could have used the shotgun," because Frenchie had an axe in one hand and a shotgun in the other hand. And then Frenchie goes, "I was saving that for an emergency."
Oh yeah,
like it's just like
keep going. And 5 minutes later, he uses the shotgun and says, "That seemed like an emergency." It's these kinds of scenes that made it a bad movie.
But like, if they would have, I feel like if they would have let it go a little further and let us as an audience know that they were winking at it instead of expecting us to take that line seriously.
Yeah.
And maybe that's their intention, but I feel like they were being sincere.
After all of the dramatization of Indiana Jones priest boy who like is globe-trotting and killing small children in the war.
He's Van Helsing.
Accident. Yes.
This was almost the same setup.
it's hard to imagine that they were going to turn around after that sequence at the beginning of the movie and then turn around and then say, oh, actually, hey, we're not taking ourselves that seriously.
Exactly.
Unless if this is like they're right on the deadline of production and they're just throwing these scenes together and they're like, oh, hey, by the way, we know that this is dog crap. So go ahead and throw that wink in there.
Yeah. All right. Anybody have anything else to say about The Nun before we get to our thumbs up, thumbs down?
I don't
think so.
Cool. All right. Well, Josh, I'll have you lead us off. The Nun, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Thumbs down.
Oh, thumbs down! Thumbs down. Didn't you give Hellfest a thumbs up? Or no, that was Danny.
That was Danny.
I'm sorry, that was Danny. I'm sorry.
No, he was the only one with you last week.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. I was shocked for a second. Okay.
Now, maybe you are a big fan of the Conjuring universe they're building.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then yes, you should watch it. But as a standalone movie, I would probably say you could pass. There's a lot more examples of this that would be a lot better if you wanted to watch an exorcism movie. Like, I didn't really like Veronica that much, and it's better.
Oh,
as
Veronica
an
was better
movie
than this for sure.
Than this,
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Up until the last maybe 15 to 20 minutes, I had determined in my mind, I was like, these guys are going to hate this movie. They're both going to give it a thumbs down, and I'm going to give it a thumbs up, not just to be contrarian, but because I think there are moments in it that are worth watching. And then I saw the end.
Oh.
And the more that I've been dwelling on the ending of the movie, I think I'm just going to have to give it a thumbs down.
Oh, thumbs down, thumbs down. Maybe this is the contrarian in me. I'm going to go ahead and give it a thumbs up.
Woo!
I don't know in what means that you're purchasing this. Last week we brought out the old chicken nugget ratio. I would be careful.
I still like it. How many nuggets is the Nun worth?
I would say. Okay, we're going off the Burger King
ratio.
10 for $1. We're not talking Chick-fil-A like 5 for
No.
$10. Like, they are delicious. Don't get me wrong. And if Chick-fil-A, you listen to this, we'll take sponsorships. I would say.
By the way, we'll take free nuggets from anywhere. I don't care.
I would say it's worth 20 nuggets. It's worth a couple bucks.
Bucks.
It's not worth
maybe a Redbox rental.
Yeah. If you can, I'm thinking if you're stringing together, if you have a free Saturday where you're stringing together a couple just kind of cheap horror flicks, you're out looking for, you're trying to round out your Conjuring universe, you're trying to hit a couple categories. This wouldn't be a bad exorcism movie.
Sure.
It's not the worst. I've seen worse. It's not the best. Yeah, Veronica's a primo example where if you're a Netflix subscriber, watch that one.
Yep.
Maybe 10 times before you watch this one. But it's not. You know the equation that you're getting with these movies,
right.
And so it's hard to imagine that you're seeking this out without recognizing that first. So if it kind of catches your interest, it will hold your interest. There's going to be parts that make you mad. I'm told. I was hanging out a couple years ago with my buddy who he was eventually he was going to get like a journalism master, but at some point he had a minor in like film critique or film study. I don't know, Ohio State, they have all those things. And the joke in their department or classes or whatever was every movie has that one line that you kind of cringe at, and you're like, you probably could have omitted that line. This one has like 7 or 8 of those where you're just like, you could have left that out. But at the end of the day, like, I certainly don't regret the last 2 hours of my life. There have been movies that we've watched here that are regrettable.
Definitely.
And this isn't one of them. Are there better? Yeah. Should you watch it? Yeah.
Don't watch Rift. It's terrible.
Dude.
That's all we have to say. Don't watch Rift.
It's not a horror movie. It is not a horror movie. So I would say thumbs up with the caveat of it's an Exorcist style movie.
Right.
So, and if you haven't seen the original, watch that one first. Like, work down the line before you get desperate enough for this one.
The first Conjuring I think is really good, and honestly, I don't even think I saw Conjuring 2. I did see Annabelle.
It's entertaining. It's not as good. Like, they use some of the equation of the first one, so it's just like, oh, I'm kind of watching that movie again.
Yeah.
It's entertaining.
But I mean, that's also kind of the James, we talked again about style earlier, and I feel like that's the James Wan style. Yeah. I mean, this is the same guy who started Saw, and I think he only directed the first one, but he still like was a producer on all of them, and like that's his thing. Like, he's really great at kind of jump starting a series that has a very specific vibe. All the Saw movies have the same color palette. They all have the same feel to them, and that's kind of what they're doing with the Conjuring universe as well. And you know, they're that at times we might feel like that's getting too trite and tired, but like in a completely separate conversation, it's like, oh well, that's the style of that director, or that's the style at least that he's in right now. You know, I think that we can give like directors a really hard time, and it's more than just them. You know, it's entire creative teams. And we can give them a hard time on things like that sometimes, but like whenever you think of like great painters, and I'm also not an art critic by any means, but like you think of great painters and like they'll go through seasons, they'll go through certain periods, and everything that they paint during that period kind of has the same vibe because that's where they are creatively and that's where they are probably emotionally, and that's just what their output looks like at that time.
Well, and maybe for others to make correlation. I mean, musicians the same way.
Classical composers.
I mean,
right.
I was actually just going to go with the Beatles. They're a little easier for me, but like Seasons, Clapton, Seasons. I mean,
for sure.
You kind of have to take maybe a musician that has a longer career,
right,
than maybe a 2D, 3D artist. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, there's. You know, it can be easy to hate on that stuff because I think just because today we get hit with so many movies so fast, and you know, this is almost a annualized series at this point. So the first one was 2013, Annabelle 2014. They gave us 2 years until The Conjuring 2 and 16, and then we had Annabelle Creation in 17 and The Nun in 18. Yeah. So I mean, you're gonna get very similar aspects in all of these movies. Like, that's just how it's going to be. Okay, so the only other question that I wanted to pose was, there's one thing. I did put a couple things. There wasn't a lot of great, like, trivia or fun facts about the making of The Nun, unfortunately. The only things I could find is, first of all, they did film in Romania, and it's actually illegal to film inside of a church in Romania. So they had to like build sets of churches. So they would go to these churches in Romania and then take all these measurements and pictures and then go back and like build them on a soundstage, which I mean, that's commitment.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, just the world building in general, like I'm not a big enough fan to have caught anything, but there are tons of like Easter egg videos on YouTube and stuff of like, oh, if you look here, you can see this artifact in the background, which is in Ed and Lorraine's Cabinet of Curiosities thing, and they're in their house in The Conjuring 2 or whatever. Like, just they are doing a great job at using some of the same props and putting them in places that fans can notice them, and hardcore fans just, eat that crap up and they love that stuff. It's like, what was that when you saw Tony Stark's dad in Captain
Right.
America, and
Right.
like all the nerds lost their shit, like stuff like that. Is
Cody did not lose his shit. The nerds did. Cody did not.
So like there's tons of stuff like that apparently riddled through all of these movies, but including The Nun, and they're actually using even some of the same exact props, which I think is cool and smart, because then you don't change something or mess something up, or like, oh yeah, there was a cross in that thing, let's get another cross, and then you actually end up getting a different cross, and then like you're not being careful with your world building, you're just kind of doing it willy-nilly. So I think that's really cool. And then there was this part that it's sort of a fun fact, but it has nothing to do with The Nun whatsoever. It's really just about the entire series as a whole, specifically Annabelle Creation. So I didn't know they did this. When Annabelle Creation came out, they actually had a contest called My Annabelle Creation, and just basically put it out there for people to make a horror short that could make it in a way to where it could be considered officially part of the Conjuring universe. And then the winner is canon. Like this is part of the Conjuring now forever.
That's really cool.
And they selected 5 winners.
Wow.
Dang.
And they're all filmmakers from different countries. And so I thought that could be a fun thing that we do maybe on a different episode, is just watch all 5 of the shorts and
Absolutely.
kind of talk about those a little bit, maybe as like a pre-feature segment. Because it's funny, the whole time I did research for this movie, and the most exciting part had nothing to do with this movie.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, I just kind of give a voice to the independent filmmaker, and I thought that was really neat. So there you have it. We have a thumbs down from Josh, a thumbs down from myself, James, and then Cody did give it a thumbs up.
Surprising thumbs up, but with a pretty hard asterisk of,
Oh yeah,
if you don't like these movies, it's not even a good one. It's like, but it fills the void, but not the real movie.
it's not as good as the Void that we talked about last week. That's for sure.
No, not at all. Not even close.
All right, thanks for listening, guys. Take it easy.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye. All right, so The Nun gets the official thumbs down from us here at Eek, man. It was really, really close to being a thumbs up for me. And, obviously, Cody found that there were still some redeemable qualities of it. So, man, if it is your cup of tea, like, go for it. But our official note is thumbs down, unfortunately. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really, really appreciate the listens. Obviously, we're just getting started at this, but we are having so much fun just making this podcast and getting to do it. And I'm getting to do it with some awesome people, my friends, and you guys listening have been so supportive and so helpful. So yeah, you can stay in touch with us on Instagram. We are at Eek Channel, and you can also find us at eekchannel.com. From there, if you want to send us an email, you can totally do that. You can request movies. You can tell us that the movies that we've done are terrible and we need to do better movies. Whatever it is that you've got on your mind about the podcast, we'll take it. And another thing, if you want to help the podcast out in any way, man, even the littlest thing is if you guys could just leave us a review, man, that would be so great. That helps us just become more discoverable. It helps kind of sort out, the podcasts that people might be listening to versus the ones that people might not really be paying as much attention to. Man, all of that helps us so much. Even if it's not like a perfect star rating, like that's totally fine. Be honest, and we're totally cool with that. We're pretty thick-skinned around here, so man, please, if you could just leave us a review, I would really appreciate it. The guys would really appreciate it. It would help us out so much. All right, with that, guys, stay eeky out there, and we'll catch you next week.